guys, so Lord here, back again with another review, and today we'll be taking a look at the Hasbro Marvel Legends Spider-Man Retro Card Series Wave 2, Ben Reilly, aka the Insatiable Spider-Man. But before we get into it, let us first take a look-see at both the front and the back of the packaging. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now before we get into the meat and taters of this review, Ben Reilly, much like the symbiote/black costume Spider-Man I took a look at the other day, also comes with 3 sets of hands. First up, Ben Reilly comes with a pair of Thwip hands. Next up, he comes with a pair of wall crawling and or jazz hands. And last but certainly not least, he comes with a pair of fist hands. But with that being said, let us now move on to the aesthetics and articulation. Taking a closer look at Ben Reilly here, he utilizes the same buck as the symbiote/black costume Spider-Man I took a look at a couple days ago, so I'm not going to harp on this too much. It is the amazing retro Spidey body. He was packaged with the Thwip hands, so those are the hands he's going to be sporting for the majority of the view. BTW, by the way, FYI, whatever you want to say. But I'm not going to harp on it too much because I already kind of praised this body when I did the review for the symbiote/black costume Spider-Man, so I'm going to make this relatively quick and focus more or less on the aesthetic for this guy because he is a little bit closer to the traditional style Spider-Man. Ben Reilly's never been my absolute favorite Spider-Man costume, but I always appreciated it from an aesthetic standpoint. I think the big spider's kind of cool. The fact that he's got kind of a half-boot thing going on. Not like a vintage Master of the Universe figure by any means, but from a different angle, I guess. And then the fact that he doesn't have the red on the outside, so his arms don't have the red pins on the inside. It's kind of a benefit for this guy, much like the symbiote and or black costume Spider-Man. Having all black, he did not suffer from the red pins on the blue legs syndrome that this guy has, unfortunately, which it seems to me like they could have just painted that. I mean, it's one pin, but at the end of the day, that would have probably flaked off and people would have complained about that too. So, can't have your cake and eat it, unfortunately. That said, is this guy the Insatiable Spider-Man? Is that what it is? I don't want to sound like a doofus, but I'm pretty sure his other well-known name is the Insatiable Spider-Man. And I think this is the look he had. Is it before he became the Scarlet Spider? Because he's a clone of Spider-Man, Peter Parker. But, yeah, just really clean as far as the paint goes. The cobwebbing's done really well on the lower legs and on the mask and the torso. The spider's done really well. And the blue appears to all be molded. So that is nice. And it seems to match pretty well throughout the majority of the figures. So I do appreciate that very much so. We're getting into the articulation on this body. Going to try and make this as quick as possible because we already did it the other day. He can look up pretty far. He can look down pretty far. A little bit of tilt side to side. He can look side to side. Again, I will say this. If they were to raise the ball peg in the neck to be a little bit closer to the top here, you would definitely get more up and down movement out of that. So everyone's saying that this isn't an effective piece of articulation. You're kind of wrong because you're just not experienced with one that works really well yet. Hopefully they will fix that at some point in the near to distant future. Only time will tell though. Much like the pins in the limbs, I would like to see a pinless version of this buck at some point. But moving into the arms, his shoulders do move out, back down. He's got a butterfly joint, which I will say also, I didn't say this in the symbiote/black costume Spider-Man video, but he does have better butterfly joints than the Pizza Spidey because it's connected in the bottom and the top, whereas the Pizza Spidey just appeared to be connected in the bottom. So the quality on this joint overall is a lot better. than its predecessor. It's a little bit more like the bullseye body in a way. He does have 360 in the shoulders, so you can move his arms up and down. Bicep swivel, double joint at the elbow, works pretty well. His wrists do rotate and have a hinge, which all of the hands have the appropriate hinges on them, most because he doesn't come with grip hands with nothing to hold. You guys know I'm a stickler for that. Diaphragm joint moves that far forward, that far back, tilts side to side, and rotates. Again, I would prefer if the ab crunch was here and the ball joint was down here, like a G.I. Joe Classified Series figure maybe, just so you wouldn't break the costume up as much, but to each their own, I guess. But with that ab crunch, you can get really killer forward and backward bend out of him. So, there you go. Crunch, I mean. That's what it's called, crunch. But he does have not butterfly, but drop down hips. Again, like a G.I. Joe Classified Series figure, but I will say the quality on these is a little bit better than those. These aren't quite as loose. This one's a little loose on mine, but it's not falling out. I'm shaking him and it's staying in place, so I'll take it. But he can kick forward, he can kick out. Again, I think the Cyborg Spider-Man has the best hips out of any Spider-Man figure ever, but what are you going to do? He's got a thigh cut, double joint at the knee. Works pretty well. He's got a calf rotation, hinge in the foot, and a rocker joint, as well as peg holes at the bottom of the feet. For the display stand, he does not come with, but as I said before, you could probably always rig something up. I don't believe McFarlane stands will work on these guys because those are meant for 7-inch figures. They do work on the Masterverse line from Mattel, though, for the Masters of the Universe line. Take a look at my Triclops video from yesterday for more on that. But that said, that is Ben Reilly in a nutshell. Really dig this. Really dig these two Spider-Man figures, man. This guy and the symbiote / black costume one I looked at the other day. Really, really solid releases. So, with that being said, let's now take a look at some size comparisons. First up, here's the new Ben Reilly next to the previous Ben Reilly and the Jackal. Up next, here he is alongside both the classic and modern versions of the Scarlet Spider. For those of you keeping track, here's Ben Reilly next to the only other figure I've already taken a look at from this wave, the symbiote / black costume Spider-Man. And last but certainly not least, we have our two regulars, the Mythic Legion's Brother Mandibulus and the Elephant Spawn, who as usual towers over to everyone. So with that being said, time to wrap things up. Some final thoughts. Overall, and much like the symbiote / black costume Spider-Man I took a look at the other day, this guy right here is by far one of my absolute favorite Spider-Man figures in my collection at this current time. Which says a lot, because if you guys know me, I got a lot of Spider-Man figures, and even though they are utilizing some outdated parts, I still hold the Scarlet Spider, the more 90s looking Scarlet Spider from the Rhino Build-A-Figure wave, and the older metallic Spider-Man 2099 from the Hobgoblin Build-A-Figure wave in the utmost highest regard, because I just love those designs for old Webhead. But at the end of the day, this is clearly the superior body mold for Spider-Man, even though it still utilizes the pins in the elbows and the knees. I hope we get a pinless version of this buck at some point in the near to distant future. Fingers crossed, maybe this year, and fingers crossed I can get a more traditional Spider-Man on this body, because have you seen the secondary market prices of that thing? Yeesh. But at the end of the day, I am happy to have the Spider-Man I do have on this buck. It is a very fun buck to play around with. I love the quality, posability, and the anatomy of it. I think Spider-Man should have a slightly bulkier build. I don't really care for the slenderness of the Pizza Spidey anymore. I much prefer something closer to this, or, you know, my bread and butter, the 90s animated series. So this just ticks all kinds of boxes for me. I had all kinds of fun posing this guy and the symbiote slash black costume Spider-Man around the other day when I busted these guys out the package. I just absolutely love this buck, and I'm looking forward to adding more Spider-Man figures utilizing this buck to my collection at some point, again, hopefully in the near to distant future. So with that being said, I would highly recommend you pick this guy up. He is awesome. He is a definite improvement to the original Ben Reilly from, I think it was the Absorbing Man Build-A-Figure way, right? And if you have that one, you can utilize the Spider Carnage parts, or even the unmasked Ben Reilly head that came with the retro card Scarlet Spider, which I would say it would have been nice if this guy came with those, but he is a standard release, not a deluxe release, so I'm not going to take off any points for that. So that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this review, and if you are so inclined, please don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you know whenever I upload more reviews like this one. If you haven't already, please hit me up on Instagram at Overlord Productions. But as always, keep the comments civil, because the world sucks enough as it is. Until next time, I'll catch you guys later.